install. I can't hear you. Sorry, you're muted.
It was
Thank you.
Wagenthal in Australia. In Austria, it's Wagenthal in Canada.
Thank you. Ms. Wagenthal, for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses and to the testimony you've brought this morning. I have a question for you, Dr. Geist. You have been critical of the Liberal government's defense of Bill C-11 as being misleading. Could you expand on that, please?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I mean, I guess I would start by noting that, you know, we've had the government, and I mentioned it in my opening remarks, claim that user-generated content, user content was out of the bill, and we've had the CRTC chair say otherwise. We've had, even now on this panel, we've had, you know, Mr. Reeb and others say that that's not their intent or what they would like to see included in the legislation. So I must admit, I find it, I struggle to quite understand why it remains there when it seems that so many are against it. As part of the discussions that we've had today, I'm struggling to even identify the bill a little bit here. I'm not sure if we're in a C-18 hearing on local media, because this bill doesn't really address core local media issues. It's more about film production and music. I'm not sure we're talking about the Copyright Act, because we're hearing claims that there's not enough there on the music side, even though SOCAN has seen record amounts of revenue being generated from internet-based streaming services. In fact, they attributed all their growth this past year to internet-based streaming services. And if we're talking about specifically this bill, then we have these dual conversations on the one hand, where there seems to be a general consensus that it's not appropriate to be regulating user content, and we ought to be fixing that, and have a discussion, a more appropriate discussion, it seems to me, around the impact of streaming services and how we ensure that the legislation is sufficiently targeted to ensure that there is an appropriate contribution as part of that system, but some of that gets lost because of the details. And if we're not going to update legislation for decades at a time, we've got to get those details right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Geist.